What's up? We're back, but guess what else is back? The NBA tomorrow night. Huge night of basketball. Only two games, but two games that we're all anticipating. We're all really excited for us because basketball is back. We've missed it. It's been since March since we've had basketball. Of course, everyone's excited with the exhibition games, but these ones actually count towards something. And a huge game tomorrow night, of course, the Lakers and the Clippers. And one player on the Lakers, LeBron James, him and Giannis Antetokounmpo on the Bucks are obviously the two finalists for the MVP. Uh, who do you think it goes to? I think Giannis. I don't see why Giannis wouldn't get it. The Bucks' best record in the NBA. In my opinion, they've been the best team in the NBA. They've been the most dominant. The consistency behind their winning has been so good. They go out and beat teams, and they've lost a game like rarely, maybe one or two a month, if that. And I think it just shows how good they've been, how dominant they've been. And I think that behind the league MVP of last season and who I think is going to be the league MVP of this season, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's led them to that.
Well, Giannis is definitely going to win MVP in my opinion. Look, if you look at Giannis, he is the best defensive player in the NBA right now, and he is maybe the best offensive player in the NBA. And if you also look at the Lakers, they have Anthony Davis and LeBron. So it's not like LeBron's going with scrubs or anything. But if you look at Giannis, Chris Middleton's a great player, no disrespect to him. But he's going to be a third team, maybe, all-team player. So what Giannis has done in Milwaukee is incredible, just with offense, defense, and how he's led that team. Giannis is the most valuable player to his team. The award is the most valuable player, and that is what Giannis has been to the Bucks this year.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree. I said before, Giannis has to be the MVP of this season, and you can make the case for LeBron. The Lakers,
Yeah.
they've been incredible this year. LeBron is the best player on that team, and he's one of the best players on the planet. He's probably second after Giannis, in my opinion, I think, right now. And, of course, we can always go into the GOAT discussion of LeBron versus MJ, but that has to be saved for another day. But, yeah, I think you've seen how good the Lakers have been. They're right up there with Milwaukee, in my opinion. They're right up there with the Clippers. A lot of people will say they're better than the Clippers. A lot of people will say they're better than Milwaukee even. But I think it's got to be Giannis, but I certainly think that LeBron is not that far behind. I think he had a tremendous season, one of the best teams in the NBA, and not there without him. So I think to make the case for both. But talking about his team, talking about the Lakers, another team in the Western Conference who is gaining a lot of attention is the LA Clippers, the Battle of LA, the Lakers versus the Clippers. We'll get to see that play out tomorrow night on TNT, one of the first games back, the second of two games tomorrow night. And that's the one we all are going to be keeping our eye on, getting when basketball comes back tomorrow. We're going to be tuning in for that one, I'm sure. So who is better? Is it the Lakers? Is it the Clippers? Let me know.
It's the Clippers, and I'll tell you why. Ready? Their bench is so deep that it could maybe be a starting lineup on some teams. Look, they have Lou Will. He can stay out of Magic City. He's perfect. They have Montrezl Harrell. They have Patrick Beverley. He's a starter, but they also have Patrick Beverley's backup, Reggie Jackson, who's not getting a lot of attention. Reggie Jackson was with the Pistons earlier this year. They bought him out. He went to L.A. He's been playing very well, and I think he's one of the more underrated players in the NBA. And you also have to look at the Clippers' defense. As I said earlier, Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Marcus Morris, and Zubac. Those are five elite defensive players. And I think that Kawhi is going to stop LeBron. And if Kawhi goes Kawhi, the Clippers are 100% the better team. And I was watching one of the scrimmages of the Clippers. Paul George looks like a different player. He was playing with that shoulder injury this year, but he looks healthy. And I think maybe Paul George steps it up. Clippers are going to win the NBA Finals and maybe even sweep a team.
Hey, I love what you said about the Clippers defensively. I love it because you look at Paul George, a Defensive Player of the Year finalist last year. Kawhi Leonard, he's won that award before. We've seen how good he is on defense, how locked down he is. And you combine that with Paul George, two guys that can guard the stars of other teams.
Yeah.
And I think you look at that and you say, LeBron's good defensively if he's guarding Kawhi. But Kawhi is better than he is defensively. So it's going to come down to they're both tremendous players. They can both score the basketball. They're both great offensively. But on the defensive side of the ball, Kawhi can stop LeBron more than LeBron can stop Kawhi, in my opinion. Not many people can stop either of those players. But if you had to pick a defender to guard LeBron, a lot of people might pick Kawhi.
I 100% would pick Kawhi. And look, you're not even saying the thing about LeBron. He's not even the best defender on his team. His buddy in LA, Anthony Davis, is the best defender on the team, but that doesn't mean he's the best defender in LA. That award goes to Mr. Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, but you're not going to see Anthony Davis guard Kawhi and Paul George.
But I'm saying LeBron's not even the best defender on his team, so I could see maybe LeBron guarding Paul George actually, and I could see maybe AD guarding Kawhi. That it's going to be a different lineup this season. Frank Vogel, he's a different playoff coach, as you saw a few years ago with the Pacers. The lineups were different. Both LA lineups will be different. That's what I have to say. But the Lakers, I could see Anthony Davis maybe playing center. I could even see him playing small forward in the playoffs. They're doing anything to win a championship.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see how that plays out throughout the playoffs, and I think that's who we're going to see in the Western Conference Finals, and we'll get to see a display of it tomorrow night on TNT with the Lakers and the Clippers. But moving on this year, obviously.
Wait. Tomorrow night, who wins, Lakers or Clippers? Give me your prediction.
Clippers. Got to be Clippers.
Give me a score.
A score?
Putting you on the spot. Give me it. Not moving on until we hear your score.
I'm going to go 114-106 Clippers.
Okay. I'm going to have to go 102-98 Clippers. Kawhi Leonard drops 35 points.
35 points in the first game back?
Yup. He's a different breed. It's basically the playoffs right now. It's a different breed.
That would be special. But moving on from this Lakers-Clippers debate, obviously mentioned how everything is very different this year with the bubble in Orlando. And another thing that's very different is how teams can actually qualify for this year's playoffs. One of those ways being through playing games. If a team is within 4 games of the 8th seed, right now there are teams currently within 4 games in the West. So you have to imagine that it looks like there's going to eventually be some playing games to get into the playoffs. Does a team like the Pelicans with rising star Zion Williamson, do they get in if they're in playing games? Do you think they can beat the Memphis Grizzlies?
100%. There is no question that the New Orleans Pelicans can make the playoffs. They are that talented. Look, you're not even mentioning the other guys on the team. Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball has been better this season. Jackson Hayes, J.J. Redick, Derek Favors. That team is deep. And I know his buddy John Moran on the Memphis Grizzlies is in the 8th spot right now, but Ja, you're not getting in that spot for very long. I hate to break it to you, but Zion is coming. And Zion and LeBron's first-round series is what the NBA wants. That is a TV viewership breaker. I can't even imagine how many views that will get. That is what Adam Silver and his partners right now are praying for. And I think that if Zion makes the playoffs, oh, my God, I can't wait for that series. Wow.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that about the TV viewership that would come from a Zion versus LeBron first-round series. The NBA wants that so badly. You're talking about millions of viewers tuning in for every single game of that series.
Across the world, not just the country, across the world.
Exactly. People hear about that. The young, rising superstar Zion Williamson versus the vet, one of the best to ever do it, LeBron James. I think for any basketball fan, not even fans of those teams, you have to get excited about a series like that. Having the ability to watch those guys battle it out for however many games it be, whether it be 4 games or whether it be 7 games. Nonetheless, it'll still be very exciting, and I think we would all love to see that series. But we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. The Pelicans, they still have some work to do. They've got to remain within 4 games of the Memphis Grizzlies for that 8th spot in the West. But, hey, I think we'd all like to see maybe the Pelicans and the Grizzlies get in, maybe the 7th seed fall out. But
let me just make a point right now. Zion Williamson played 19 games, something like that, and John Morant basically played the whole season this year. The fact that Zion Williamson made a debate for Rookie of the Year in 19 games is remarkable. That is one of the greatest things of the season, one of the best storylines of the year. And Zion Williamson is going to capture his storybook season. I know it was 19 games. I know he was hurt, but the comeback that he's made, the way he's been playing, everything about him, he will capture that, and he will take that 8 seed away from John Morant. And John Morant will be going home back to Memphis after these 8 games. That's all I have to say on that.
Wow, very, very confident in Zion down in New Orleans. But moving on from the Pelicans, from Zion, We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. X factors on the contenders: the
Okay.
Raptors, the Bucks, the Lakers, the Clippers. We already went into the Lakers and the Clippers before. Not sure we really have to go into that as much, but we can certainly discuss it a bit. And also the Celtics and even the Sixers, you could throw in that contender debate. Who are the X factors on those teams?
Well, let me start with the Sixers. It's Shake Milton. Shake Milton was playing unbelievable towards the end of the season. He broke the NBA record for most consecutive threes. He had 39 points on live TV against the LA Clippers. He was doing very well. And then the season went into hiatus. And Shake, I didn't know how it would play out when the season resumed, but he's the starting point guard. Well, he's expected to be, according to Brett Brown. So I think if Milton picks up his hot hand that he was having before the season went on hiatus, Milton is the X factor for the Sixers. And if he plays at an elite level, the Sixers are championship contenders, and they could even beat the Bucks.
Yeah, I think I certainly agree with that. And another team in the East, the Boston Celtics, who could play the Sixers in the first round if the Sixers remain the 6th seed and the Celtics remain the 3 seed, correct? They could play each other in the first round. And I think when you look at that team, there's the stars, there's Jason Tatum, there's Kemba Walker. I think when you look at X factors on that team, you have to look at guys like Marcus Smart. You have to look at Jaylen Brown. You have to look at Gordon Hayward. It's going to come down to how those guys play. Those guys, Jaylen Brown has been tremendous this season. I really like
Borderline all-star.
I think he's been a great player, and I think Gordon Hayward, prior to his injury, we saw how good he was, and he's been good for the Celtics. I don't know if he's been as good as they had hoped. He couldn't really control that.
For the money that they're paying him, he's not as good.
Like, it's not entirely his fault, but I think it's going to come down to those 3 guys and how they play. And if they play at a top level, the Celtics are a dangerous team now, but they could even go beyond that and be right up there with the Bucks if those guys are able to step up big for them. And then in the West, you look at the Houston Rockets, a team. It's really interesting to see a team like that because a team like the Lakers in the playoffs and say the conference semifinals, you have to quote they got rid of Capella. They're really, really short on size. They don't have the big men.
You're breaking up. Can you repeat that?
Really? Can he score a game in the playoffs? Because if he does, they're going to be in every game, I think. They're going to be competing in every game. So I think when you look at that team, you have to say Harden, of course, he's the X factor. He is that team. He makes that team what they are. I think if he is able to play at such a high level, I think they can compete with anyone. I don't know if they can really beat the Lakers in a series or beat the Clippers in a series, but I certainly think they could contend with a team like that and certainly be in a game with them and not get blown out. Because when a guy plays that well, he puts his team in a position to win almost every night.
And I'm going to talk about the Toronto Raptors for a second. There are 2 X factors on that team, Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. You saw in the playoffs last year in that Sixers series, which to this day breaks my heart. Marc Gasol shut down Joel Embiid, and Marc Gasol is one of the better defenders in the NBA. He used to be one of the best defenders, but he's aged. He's still Marc Gasol, but let's talk about Serge Ibaka too. Serge Ibaka is another great defender, and I think that if both of them play the way that they were playing the playoffs last year, and they were very underrated and nobody really spoke about them because it was Kawhi this, Kawhi that, Kawhi everything. But you need to pay more attention to those 2 and you need to realize that if they're guarding your center, it's a different series. If Gasol's on Embiid, I'm worried. I'm very worried for Embiid. And Serge Ibaka too, if they play a little power forward and center with those 2, the Raptors are a dangerous team.
I certainly agree with you on those 2 X factors on the Raptors. I think you look at Gasol, you look at Ibaka, those are 2 veteran big men in the NBA, 2 players that have been in the playoffs before. They've won in the playoffs before. We saw them win with Toronto last season. And they play the game the right way. They both defend, they hustle, and they're not guys that are going to go out and score 15, 20 points a night. Gasol might give you 15 one game in the series. But they certainly have the ability to. But they play the game the right way. They make the right passes. They know what to do because they're veterans. They've been there before. They know the game. It's not like these young players. You look at it with the Sixers a lot. They struggle. They turn the ball over a bunch. The Raptors, a team, a more veteran team. Siakam's obviously very young, so is Van Fleet. But you look at the veterans on that team; they're able to coach the young guys. And you talked about Ibaka and Gasol, two leaders on that team, not just off the court but also on the court, and not even fully with their play, but just with their basketball IQ and their ability to make the right play every single play.
Yeah, exactly. As you said with the basketball IQ, they're both one of the smartest players in the game of basketball. I feel that Gasol, his brother Pau, one of the smartest players. They're both smart players, Ibaka and Gasol. So look out for those two when watching the Raptors in the playoffs this year. But moving on, if you watch the NBA scrimmages, you've seen that second-round pick last year, Bol has really stepped it up. And a lot of people weren't expecting Bol to play this well. But what do you make of Bol during these scrimmages?
I think it's great. I mean, it's awesome to see a big man, come. And we saw him in the first scrimmage game. He caught the ball. The guards were calling for it. He was like, "Nah, I'm taking it up the court." He brought it up the court. He pulled up and he drilled a three. So I think it'll be interesting. I'm not sure how much he's going to play for that Nuggets team. I mean, it is a scrimmage. It is exhibition. Guys that don't play as much got some time sort of to get their legs back under them. And I think it'll be really interesting. If if they put him in one of these regular season games, if you will, the 8 games that every team will play. If he gets some time in those games and he continues to excel and play at a good level, I think that'll translate into more minutes in the playoffs. And the Nuggets, I think they are a legit team to be scared of in the playoffs. Nikola Jokic is very good. And also, of course, Jamal Murray. We can't forget about him.
As you said, Jokic is very good. He's had 18 turnovers in 3 scrimmages, so I'm a little worried about him. I saw his body post. He had COVID-19, so that might have affected how he trained this offseason and everything about that. But I don't know. I think Bol could take the leap from a below-average player to a maybe starter in the NBA. And I think, look, good for him. He was a second-round pick. Every scout in the league passed on him. Every team passed on him, and he's proving them wrong. So proud of Bol, and he was a great player at Oregon, and I hope he continues it in the NBA.
Yeah, wouldn't it be something special to see the combo of Jokic and Bol on the court at the same time?
How do you get a rebound against them?
Yeah,
but
it would be a sight to see for sure. But when you mention Jokic, an elite center, another elite center in the NBA, Joel Embiid for the Sixers, he missed the last 2 scrimmage games with apparently calf discomfort or soreness. I'm not really sure what it is. What do you make of the injury? Do you think he will be fine to go right out of the bat when these other games start? Do you think it was just out of an abundance of caution that the Sixers are like, okay, let's not risk it. We don't need you to play now, but when it comes to these upcoming 8 games, they need him to play because the Sixers, frankly, if I'm Philadelphia, I'd rather play the Heat in the first round than Boston. Boston's definitely a better team than the Heat, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. So I think when you look at that, they're going to need him to play then. So why risk him getting hurt now and then not having him available then? So I think I like the decision to not have him play, but ultimately it comes down to how bad the injury is. No one really has like a true idea of what had actually happened. The team didn't release much information besides just calf discomfort, and you have to assume that they just held him out because they want it to be safe rather than sorry. So I think could he have played? Probably. Should he have played? I mean, if I were him, I think you want to get back because you haven't played for so long. It's like he should play. Like it's not like it's a regular season in the NBA where your star gets hurt. It's like they're coming back from almost 5 months off. Like I think he should want to play. He should want to get back. He should certainly want to be able to play in some NBA action and get back to into shape, game shape. And I think when you look at him not playing, it's like a little bit like, okay, like could he have played? Like is this injury really that bad that he couldn't have played? Like it's calf discomfort. I think I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not with the Sixers, but I would have liked to see him play just so he can get his legs under him and get back into the flow of things with the actual game action. But who knows? I don't make the decisions. What do you have to say?
Well, as you said, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. I'm not in Orlando. I'm not with the Sixers. So I really can't tell you what's going on with an Embiid. If it really was a calf injury, then you definitely should keep him out for precautionary reasons just because I don't want my all-star center getting hurt in an expedition game. But look, if he wasn't hurt and they were using this as load management, I would want Embiid to play just because he hasn't played in 5 months, as you said. He seemed a little rusty in the first game. He played well, but obviously there was some rust to every player, and no shade to Embiid, but if you just looked at anyone, there was rust. But look, it did open an opportunity for his teammate, Ben Simmons, to take more shots, as we saw. Ben made a 3. What do you make of that?
I think it's exciting. I think if a guy like Ben Simmons can start shooting the ball, he is going to be one of the best players in the league for years to come. And I think if you look at him and if you give him a shot, could he be the best player in the world?
Yes.
Possibly.
100%. There is no question about that.
His speed, his athleticism, his ability to drive, his size also. I mean, him and Giannis are very similar builds. They're both big. They're both strong. And you look at Giannis, he's not the best shooter. But Simmons, if he develops into an elite shooter, I think he could be better than Giannis. I'm not saying he's going to be. It's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of working on that shot. But I think if he's able to really develop an elite shot, it could be something special.
Well, let's talk about Simmons and his jumper and how it affects the Sixers. Look, if Ben Simmons gets a jumper, that's going to create so much more spacing for the Sixers on the court. So much more. I can't emphasize that enough. You're going to have –
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I mentioned his speed before, his athleticism. If he starts really shooting the ball and teams see that as a threat and they start guarding him out by the three-point arc, he'll be able to beat people off the dribble and drive by them because he's so much faster than them. He's so quick. So it'll open up more lanes for him to drive. It'll open up more spacing for Embiid in the middle because now teams aren't going to be falling back. So it's really going to make it tough to defend against the Sixers. Teams are definitely going to have to adjust to that. And I think it helps Simmons a lot, but it also helps other players in the court, such as Embiid.
Well, let's talk about that. Ready? If Ben Simmons is being guarded near the three-point line, that creates so much space. You're going to have people like Shake Milton open. You're going to have Josh Richardson open. You're going to have Matisse Thybulle open. You're going to have a lot of guys open that weren't open before when Simmons wasn't shooting. And Simmons shooting, the defenders used to not guard Simmons near the three-point line, and they used to give him his space. But look, if Ben Simmons is a threat to take a 3, even a threat, you guard him because you want to put a good defender on him. And the court's going to be so much more open for guys like Embiid in the post. It's going to be, I mean, I hate to say it, but Al Horford, you got to step it up if Simmons is giving more space. And I think Brett Brown, if he doesn't make the most of this opportunity this year, I'm not saying Brett Brown gets a chance next year if he fails in the Orlando bubble, but this year, if you don't make a chance with this team and Simmons isn't shooting, see ya, Brett Brown. You're looking for a new job next year.
Yep. That brings up our next question. Coaches on the hot seat if their teams don't do well in the bubble. And you said it right there, Brett Brown. I mean, if the Sixers don't get out of the second round, I think conference finals is where they have to be for him to keep his job, in my opinion. I don't know how much the Sixers like him. I don't know how Allen Brand feels. I don't know how the players feel. But I think, in my opinion, I'd like to see them get to at least the conference finals. If they lost to Milwaukee, I'd be like, okay, it's the best team in the NBA. But if they got to at least the conference finals, I think that would show a drastic level of improvement from the regular season into these sort of post-regular season games, if you will, sort of seeding games almost. They're kind of just there to allow teams to sort of shift up and down the standings. But, yeah, I think Brett Brown could be out the door if the Sixers don't play up to standards in the bubble. Another coach, Scott Brooks. I mean, the Wizards.
He's washed. Don't even mention him. He's gone after the season no matter what. But let me speak about Brett Brown for a second. I have a few things. All right. I have a few things to say about Brett Brown. Ready? If you watched The Last Dance and you saw how well Phil Jackson presented himself to the team and the Zen Master and everything about that, you don't see any of that with Brett Brown. Look, Dennis Rodman needed his space and Phil Jackson gave it to him. Brett Brown is not pushing his players or anything. I don't feel like that. I feel like he's more of a player's coach, but Phil was both. And I feel like Brett Brown needs to come to that reality and realize that he needs to be strict and the player's coach at the same time because Ben Simmons not shooting threes in his third or fourth season is unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable, and that should not be tolerated by any coach. But Brett Brown, I'm not saying fire Brett Brown in any means right now, but if Brett Brown doesn't take the team far and the team is still playing like the way they were earlier in the year, then you fire Brett Brown. Let's give him a shot, see what he has. He's had a few years with non-tanking rosters, but I'm obviously rooting for him because I want my Sixers to win the championship. I want Brett Brown to win the championship, but if you're not going to bring me home the Larry O'Brien trophy, Brett, you got to go.
Yep, I certainly agree with you as a Sixers fan. I'd love to see Brett succeed. I'd love to see the Sixers succeed down in Orlando and hopefully take home the Larry O'Brien trophy for the NBA championship. But, hey, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see what happens after the playoffs. But moving on, our last quick subject here. NBA Finals prediction. They're going to go down in October, or it's going to go down in October. I apologize. Pardon me for that. But the Finals going down in October. Who's your pick? What teams? What's the matchup? And not only that, who wins? Who wins and in how many games?
All right, you're putting me on the spot right now. I was thinking about this earlier. I just really couldn't pick two teams. But if I got to pick two teams, I'm going to have to say the Bucks and the Clippers win in 6. And Kawhi Leonard's Finals MVP for a second straight year.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Bucks, Clippers, but Bucks in 7.
Bucks in
okay. 7.
Giannis Finals MVP.
I think Milwaukee is just – they're so good. They're so good, I think. They've been so dominant, and they've beat the Lakers. They beat the Clippers. And I think Giannis gets his first ring. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. We'll have to see if either of those teams are even in the finals. But, hey, we're all excited. Tomorrow night, the NBA is back. Everyone tune into the NBA. Also, keep tuning into our podcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We out.
Let me just say one last thing. Ready? On behalf of all basketball fans, thank you, Adam Silver, for creating this bubble. Thank you. You did a fantastic job, and all basketball fans want to thank you, and I'm thanking you on behalf of them. So thanks, Adam Silver. And if you're watching this podcast somehow, Adam Silver, make sure you subscribe. And that goes for everyone watching this podcast. Make sure you subscribe and follow our Instagram, _Jacob and Jacob Podcast. Thanks, and go Sixers.